Hi, good morning, everybody. Greg Nespor here with the Caddis Fly Shop Oregon Fly Fishing Blog. Today I'm going to be tying an October Caddis Stimulator, a Randall Kaufmann creation. Awesome fly. You can use it as a dry fly, dry dropper. You can skate it. It's going to hold a tungsten bead, a brass bead. Awesome fly. Join me, guys. Well, good morning, everybody. Greg here with the Caddis Fly Shop Oregon Fly Fishing Blog. It's October. It's all about October caddis, and I've been seeing them popping off the rivers the last few days, and yeah, I'm really excited. It's time for big dry flies, and so today I'm going to be tying an October caddis stimulator, a fly inspired by the sofa pillow. Randall Kaufmann started developing it and really put this fly back on the map. I would call this a good step for you beginning fly tyers. And once you start tying a lot of these, they'll get easier and easier. But a lot of good skills from stacking elk hair, of course, hackles, tying those in, a couple different styles. But today I'm using a TMC 100. I'm tying these in size 10. I'm fishing these here in the Sierra rivers. Up in Oregon, you could get away with 10s, 8s, maybe even 6s, depending on where you're at. But easy materials, not a whole lot. Got a hook, got some elk hair. You can buy stimulator hair. I just have this stuff. It's a little shorter than I like, but this is what I have. A little bit of wire. I'm using this UTC small gold. Some dubbing. I happen to be using Kaufmann's blend. I'm also going to be mixing in a little bit of this STS hot orange. But if you don't have this, guys, you can substitute different dubbings, okay? You don't need to do the exact recipe. For instance, you can use Senyo's Fusion Dub. This stuff tends to be a little bit longer. You can actually cut it up and you'll cart it in with the dubbing. I'm using some beautiful saddle hackles here in brown. You can also use these 100 packs. You know, Whitey makes them, Keel makes them. But also at the Caddis Fly, Chris and Cash spent hours putting all these little pre-packs together of some of these little hackles. I'm going to be using these today for about $7. You get a lot for $7. It's a great deal. Anyways, call the shop, check it out. They might have them. Other than that, I'm using UTC burnt orange and 70 denier. I just love this color. You guys have seen me use this before. And let's get started. Once again, this is a TMC 100. Excuse me, a TMC 200. I've been tying up a lot of 100s, so this is a 200. I love that curved shank. We're gonna start our thread behind the eye. As you can see, I give it a nice gap there. And this is where I'm going to use this as my reference point where I start my thread. This is going to be where I tie in my wing and kind of finish off the front of the fly with the hackle and whatnot. But I'm going to run this thread right now about to between the point and the bar, right about there. And I'm going to go ahead and cut that out. The reason why we run this thread down is just to get a nice base of thread here. I'm going to cut out a pretty nice clump of elk hair here. Once I cut out that clump, I'm really going to pull all the little fuzzies out of there. I even use a comb. Sometimes I just have a comb. I'll comb it all out. I'll pull it all out if I need to. And you just want to get all that little fuzz out of there. Any smaller or random pieces of hair, just get that out of there. And that's going right into a hair stacker here. Now I have my hair here. If you have any random pieces, just take those out. And my tail, I'm not going to go too long, but I'm going to go just kind of beyond the hook shank, about right there. And I would say that's about a gap of the hook shank as well, as far as the length. I'm going to do a pinch wrap right here, nice and loose. Hold it. Do another one, nice and loose. Now, if I had stimulator elk hair, it would be a lot longer, easier to manage. But once I get it there, I'm just going to do a couple wraps and I'm going to start working this up. I'm making an underbody here with my hair, okay? When we get to about there, I'm going to go ahead and really tie that down with some good wraps. I'm going to stop right there for a moment. I'm going to pull all of this up. And if you have some older scissors, use your older scissors. I pull all this up, just kind of get this stuff out of here, clean it up. I have some really short elk hair here, so it's a little bit more difficult for me to work. Okay, but once I have it there, oops, another little piece, rip that off. You can see I start just right where I kind of started the thread, a little behind actually, it's not a big deal. But now I'm watching my tail, I'm pulling that back as well. But you can see I'm just holding it, and I'm gonna go right on back to the hook barb. And as I come back, I'm gonna start doing looser wraps because I don't want that tail to flare too much. But that right there, I can tweak it. Looks pretty dang good. And then I'm gonna come back up and really lock all this down. What I like to do is I'll take some super glue. I'm just using Loctite. You can use Zap-A-Gap, whatever you want. I'm just gonna put a little bead right there on the bottom, back by the tail. Just a little bit, boom, done. Let that sit, let that dry. And that's gonna prevent my elk hair from spinning around the hook. All right, from there, I'm taking some of this ultra wire, small gold, and I'm gonna go ahead and tie that in. And I'm gonna tie that in on the side facing me. A couple nice hard wraps. And I'm bringing that right on back to that hook barb and coming back forward again, right in front of the point there. I'm using brown hackle, and as you can see, if I measure this hackle is just going just slightly beyond the point of the hook. Later on, you can always cut that if you want it to ride lower in the water. I'm gonna go ahead and strip off, I don't know, about a 1/4 inch or so of stem. And then just a nice loose wrap. I'm gonna tie that in just right on top of that wire facing me. And make sure that's nice and secure. Come back up. I'm gonna be using some dubbing wax today. I'm using the super sticky stuff, any wax will work. I just really want this dubbing to stay on. I'm gonna be using this Kaufmann dubbing along with this STS hot orange today. I don't like a lot of orange because our October caddis here, they're kind of almost more brown in color. And so that's what I'm using. I'm using the color known as brown stone and the Kaufmann blend. And I'm gonna pick off a nice little chunk. I really don't need too much. But then I'm also gonna be taking a little bit of this hot orange. If you have ice dub, you can use that. But I really love this STS stuff. It's just got a lot of sparkle. And I just take a little tiny bit, just like that. And I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna card that with the brown, just like this. You can see, I just kind of get all the fibers together by just kind of putting it in my hands, or my fingers, I should say, and just kind of start yanking it apart. But just take your time, small quantities. I'm gonna pinch it on there. I'm just gonna start rolling that. And as you can see with that orange and brown, it gives it some beautiful highlights. And I'm just gonna make a nice, I don't know, 2 inch, maybe about 2.5 inch dubbing noodle here. Just getting it nice and loose, nice and tight. Because of the hackles that I'm using in brown, this is gonna have a beautiful kind of brown and orange color to it. And now I'm just doing touching wraps all the way up. Occasionally I'm gonna spin that a little bit more. And as you can see, let me get that a little bit longer. I'm keeping my body fairly narrow or thin. I'm gonna take a little bit more dubbing here just because I wanna finish it at my starting point. I'm gonna tie that on just like so, or dub that on, come on up. And I'm gonna go ahead and stop right there. Now you have a few options. I choose to take my hackle and my wire from behind, and I'm gonna counter wrap this. A lot of people will wind the hackle up and then go back and use the wire, starting their hackle from the front, going back, and so forth. I really and truly believe that this is a much more durable fly. So what we're going to do, because it's easier to actually counter wrap the hackle, I'm gonna be taking my hackle away from me up and over, because I'm gonna be counter wrapping that wire. So I'm going to do some nice open wraps. As you can see, it gives it that segmentation. And I'm going to make this a heavy hackle. I want this thing to float, like I said, like a cork. And I'm going right up to my starting point. Don't crowd your head, guys. This is one of those flies, and it just takes time. If you crowd that head, you're going to close that eye of the hook, which is kind of a pain in the butt when you're out on the river and you're trying to fish these. All right, and right there, I'm going to go ahead and lock that off. I'm going to push everything back. I'm a huge fan of wrapping everything over itself. I'm going to get in there with my fine scissors. I'm going to cut that out of there. So I went under and away. Now with the wire, I want to counter wrap this. I'm going to go over and away, or towards you guys. And I kind of just wiggle it through those hackles, and we could pick it out with a bodkin if we need to. But I'm just doing open wraps once again with my gold wire. And that's really going to lock those hackles in there. And once I get right to the front, I'm going to go ahead with a good 3 to 4 thread wraps, really lock that in. All right, once again, I like to push it back, a couple more, lock that in. And then you can go ahead, cut off your wire, or you can just helicopter it off if you need to. Now right here, I'm going to go ahead and run a little bit of thread to the front. Once again, I just want to give that hook some thread so all the materials have something to grip. It looks pretty good. I'm looking at my hackles. If you have any hackles in there that are trapped, you could go in there with your bodkin or your scissors. You can just pick those out like that, but I'm pretty happy with that. I am using some Crystal Flash Hot Orange. This is going to be an underwing. I literally just take one strand, I'll cut it in half and half it again, just like this. I don't need a whole lot. I was going to say anywhere from about 6 to 8 different strands as an underwing is fine. Right there I have 4 strands, so my underwing is going to be a total of about 8. I'm going to go ahead with a pinch wrap, nice and loose, right here. Oop. Lock that in, and I'm coming right over. Then I'm going to take that other half, pull it back, and then I'm going to take all my Crystal Flash right here, pull it back under the wing, and come back up to the hackle. And you can see right there, it's going to be a beautiful little underwing. Give it a little more of that orange color that I'm looking for. Once I have that in, I'm going to cut this pretty short. I go right basically to the hook point, cut that out, and there's my underwing right there, guys. Then once again, I'm going to take some more elk hair. I personally like my stimulators really thin. I like them to ride low in the water. You can even cut your hackles on the bottom if you want it to ride lower. But I want my clients to see these flies, and lately I've been making them a little thicker because I'm also putting a dropper underneath this. I've been putting in a dropper with a small tungsten bead or a brass bead, or even just some wrapped non-lead. But I want it to hold that up as well. I'm going to take about a pencil width worth of elk hair. That right there I can already tell is too much, but as I start cleaning it and getting all those little fuzzies out by going back and forth, we're going to lose a lot of these materials. And once again, I'm taking my little comb, I'm going to comb that out, get out all those little fuzzy fibers from underneath there. That way when we tie it in, it ties down a lot tighter and smaller. All of these are going into my hackle stacker here, excuse me, my hair stacker. I'm going to go ahead and bang that a few times, take it out, and as I take it out, once again, I'm looking for any little random fibers I could get rid of, like that right there. Get rid of that stuff. Right. Now the wing, if we had an arch here, I want that arch to kind of come down almost to the back of the tail. As you can see, I'm not coming over, but I like it just kind of as an arch. I'm looking right there. Then I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to switch hands, and I'm going to do a nice little pinch wrap or two. There's one more, 2, and 3. I'm going to hold that there for a second. And then I'm going to lift up. As I lift up, I'm really locking that in. Now, as I do that, I'm going to take all this flare stuff, and I like to put it back in the thirds. There's one, I do a wrap, I take another good chunk of that, pull it back, do a wrap, and then I'll take all of it, and I'll do a wrap right there. I see a little crystal flash got in the way. That's okay. I'm going to cut all that out. Now carefully, I'm going to separate all those ends. And we're not doing a head with this, not like an elk or caddis, so we could get away with this. But as you can see, I'm just cutting out all the ends right now and cleaning up that head. If I need to turn it over, I will. I got some crystal flash I got in the front there, that's okay. I come on the bottom, I'm going to cut all this out. There are some people who could do it much nicer than I can, and that's awesome. But when I get to about there, it's okay to have a little head. I'm going to be wrapping all that. And that's actually going to give me a little base for my dubbing head. All right. Now I also want to make sure that my wing, that looks awesome, is on top as well. You can, at this stage, you can still manipulate it, move it back and forth. But once again, I'm going to lock it in. And then I'm going to start doing a lot of wraps right here, really locking in that head. And as I come back, I'm just going back and forth. As I come back, I'm really locking in that wing as well, right there. If you have any random fibers like this that are sticking forward, just rip those out of there, guys. I'm going to go ahead, once again, a little bit of super glue. I'm just going to go ahead, a little dab right there, just to hold that from spinning as I'm working with it. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. And I'm going to go ahead and start building a nice little ramp here in the front. The classic Stimulator has that beautiful dubbing head with the Hackle. And there we are. Okay, for the front of this fly, I'm using a different dubbing. I like to give it a little bit of contrast. So I'm actually using what they call Golden Stone SLF dubbing here. I just take a little pinch. Oh, you know what? Before I do that, I need to put a Hackle in. I'm using a grizzly Hackle today because I really like the contrasty colors that it gives. I'm gonna put that right there. And I'm gonna pull back those fibers, and on one side I'm gonna slightly pull a little bit more just to give it a nice starting wrap. And if you're not sure what I mean, let me show you. There's my Hackle. You can see these Hackles start right there. I'm starting on the other side there. And I'm gonna lock that in right there on top, bring it back, work it back, and there's my Hackle. Yeah, once again, I'm going back to that golden dubbing. I just love this stuff. And there we go. Once again, I like to card it just to get all the fibers in order. And I am going to use dubbing wax once again. I just like it to stick on there. I want this fly to be a durable fly. Okay, once I get this on, I'm just going to go ahead and make about, I don't know, 1.5 inch dubbing noodle here. Just like so. And I'm going to pull all my fibers back. I'm going to start working this up like this. And I'm not making a huge head, but I'm making a little more of a pronounced head, obviously with a nice little taper there. I'm gonna get that down a little bit more and just nice and loose. And as you can see, I have a very little gap behind my eye. That's where I'm gonna be tying in my Hackle. I don't wanna crowd that eye. And for you beginners, it's just something you gotta do. If you end up crowding your eye and it's a fly that you can't use, cut it, retie it. All right, now I'm taking my Hackle, and this one I want to extend. If you look, my brown Hackle fibers are just slightly under the point of the hook. You can cut these. My front Hackle, I like a lot longer. Like, you're gonna oversize it. This is a size 10 hook. You're like gonna go with like a size 8 or even size 6 Hackle. And I wanna get all those hair, deer hair, or not deer hair, I keep saying deer hair. I want to get all those elk hair out of the way. And as I come up, I'm doing one solid wrap right there. Boom. There it is. And then I'm going to do fairly close wraps. Not touching wraps, but fairly close, because once again, I want this thing to float like a cork. And I get that with a lot of Hackle. And it looks like I'm going to get about 5 wraps in. There was 4. There's 5. I'm gonna go for 6 if I can. Pull that back. There's about 5.5, and I'm gonna stop right there. Good couple of wraps, 2 to 3, right behind. Then I'm gonna go ahead, pull all of that back. I'm gonna also spin my thread. If you're using a really flossy thread like UTC, spin it clockwise, and you'll cord it. It will get a lot tighter, especially if we're getting into these small areas. Then I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna lock that off in the front. Now at this stage, I'm gonna get in there with my fine scissors. You can see I have a couple of random little fibers sticking forward here. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna cut those out of there without cutting my thread, I hope. That's exactly what I didn't want to do, but it's okay. I watched Jim Sens cut his thread the other day. And I got to tell you, when I see these professional tires cut their thread, and I'm going to put some super glue there too, guys. When I see these professional tires do the same mistakes that I do or that you do, it just tells me, hey, we're humans. All right, but I saved that. I should have turned that over, but I was wanting to keep it on the camera. All right, and then once again, I'm going to go ahead, since I did cut that thread, I'm going to put a little super glue on my thread here. I'm also going to finish this with some head cement. Just a little bit of super glue there. That will make me a little more. And there we go. I'm going to build that head, and then I'm going to go ahead with a 4 or 5 turn whip finish. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. Lock that out of there. Try to get those random fibers out of there. And there you go. Cut that out. At this stage, before we glue it, you can see I kind of have a couple of random fibers right there sticking out. Looks like I have something right here on the bottom of my head. I'm going to go ahead and cut that out if I can. And I have these really fine copter scissors. They're expensive, but they're amazing for these little things to get in there. You really can't get in there, and it just blows my mind how close you can cut. But you can see I didn't crowd the head. I have my eyes open. And at this stage, I'm just going to take a look at it. I might have some random fibers like that guy. Just pull that out. Play with your wing. Manipulate it if you need to. But I'm pretty happy with this. Now I'll use this just as a dry fly. Obviously, I'll do a dry dropper like I was talking about. This is an excellent fly for heavier droppers. I can get away with like a small tungsten bead, and this will still hold it. But you can skate these flies. I had a client of mine, Mr. Charles Allen, earlier this year. He was skating, not a October caddis, but a brown caddis across a riffle. And he caught a beautiful 18-inch brown. Might have been 17 inches, but it was beautiful. And at this stage, I just want to kind of clean up that head. I'm using a little bit of hardest hole penetrator, so it's nice and thin. I'll just come in here, hit the top, just like so, turn it over. By doing so, I'm also locking in that front hackle. Kind of just hit that. And the last thing that I do is I take an old wire. You can use an old hackle because I put a lot of glue on there. I'll just take an old wire, go right through the eye, kind of clean it out to make sure there's no glue there. And if you have any random fibers like this, you can just yank them out, kind of sticking up, but it doesn't matter. I don't think the fish will care. That's going to be more just for us. But you can also get in there. You can tweak out any of the hackles that might have gotten stuck. You can cut out any hackles you don't like. You can also cut the bottom off if you want this to ride a little lower. You would literally just take some scissors and cut right there. But I like a lot of hackle, like I said. And guys, that's my version of an October caddis. Nice little underwing there that you can see some orange. It's a great fly. And once you start tying them, it's, I don't want to say an easy fly, but it's a fairly, I would say like an easy intermediate fly for beginning fly tyers. This is a fly that you should challenge yourself. It's got a lot of good techniques. obviously your palmered hackle, your hair stacking, and then also just get used to not crowding that eye. That's one of the biggest mistakes that I see. Tie them up in different colors, like I said, orange, tan, black, early summer. Of course, as we get in the late summer, early fall, orange. It's all about October caddis, which are typically orange in color. Give them a shot, guys. Visit caddisflyshop.com for all of your fly tying materials. Give the guys a call. They're there to help you. Awesome crew of guys. I miss them very, very much, but I'm hoping to see them here on the dish shoots this fall. Thank you for watching.